This is the Purple Passion Project with host and clinical sexologist, Dr. Stacy Friedman. This is your go-to podcast for raw, real, and irresistibly juicy conversations about sex, intimacy, connection, and everything in between. Whether you're feeling a little stuck in your love life, curious about what turns you on, or just craving conversations that actually matter, you're in the right place. So now, please welcome the host of the Purple Passion Project, Dr. Stacy Friedman.
Hey there, what do you get when you mix purple, passion, and permission to be your true self? This podcast. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and this is the Purple Passion Project, coming to you live and unfiltered. And this is the show where we talk sex, intimacy, connection, and everything underneath the surface. Because let's be honest, small talk is boring and you're ready for the good stuff. So relax, drop your guard, and get ready for truth, laughs, and maybe a few gasps and a whole lot of passion. So today on the Purple Passion Project, we're going to go beyond the binary and get real about intimacy, identity, and what it means to be fully included. And I'm joined by someone who doesn't just talk the talk. She literally wrote lots of books on it, and she's a great friend of mine, and it's Dr. Chris Shane. And she is America's go-to LGBT plus expert, a mental health pro, multi-degree powerhouse. She does a lot of studying and a passionate advocate for making every space, whether it's the boardroom or the bedroom, safer, sexier, and more inclusive. And she's also an educator, a cast member of I Am Jazz, and a force behind shifting schools, workplaces, and legislation to better support the LGBT plus community. She's led a lot of rallies and major organizations, and Dr. Chris brings activism and advice together like nobody else. And I'm so excited to have her on the show. So whether you identify as part of the LGBTQ community or you're an ally looking to love better, learn more, try to help people feel more included, open your heart, open your mind, this episode is for you. So we are going to welcome Dr. Chris. Hello. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm in my purple passiony best.
And Dr. Chris loves rainbow, and I try to wear my rainbow. So we each try to do what the other person likes. So that's pretty awesome because everything with Dr. Chris is rainbows, and everything with me is
tie-dye.
So tie-dye. So anyway, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you were able to come and talk with us today.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So what we want to talk about today is, one of the things that we always want to do is try to help people feel included, and we want to feel loved, and we want to feel acknowledged, and we also want to build safety for people, especially in the LGBT community, in the environment, especially today. So if you've been called America's LGBT expert, but what actually got you into this world of advocacy and education, especially, when it came to sex and intimacy and just in general? What brought you here?
A lot of it for me was really realizing there are entire demographics of people that don't get acknowledged and don't get seen and don't get heard. And as somebody that I think just has activism in the marrow of my bones, I wasn't able to know that and then go on with my day like I didn't know it. Once I knew it, I couldn't unring that bell. And the more work and volunteering I started to do, the more people I met, the more stories I heard, the more I got to bear witness, and the more I got to be a better activist for myself and for all the communities.
Yeah, and because the more people that you meet, you realize people are just people wanting to thrive and wanting to love and just be included. And it's awesome that you took all of that from just everything you've done and people you've met and built a career and a life with that. It's amazing. So, and one of the things that I've seen you mention is that, you are very connected with the trans community as well and people that you work with. And you see that so many people, not just the LGBT, but a little bit even more so with the trans community, that a lot of the people are feeling unloved, disconnected. And so, in your opinion, what can you do, or what can we do to prevent the trans youth from feeling so unloved? And what does it look like to love somebody like that community in the right way?
I think we need to be present and vocal. I think we need to be using our social media platforms not only to talk about the harm that's happening to the trans community and trans youth communities, but to amplify when we're seeing trans joy. We so often get in situations where we see trans people as victims because they are so often victimized,
Right.
but also making a point to find the videos online, whether you're following hashtags or following the content of trans creators, and find the moments of happiness, find those moments of gender euphoria, and putting them out on your own social media channels so that you're sharing them with your audience and liking or following or subscribing or commenting on, so that those algorithms show that that content is what we as a society want more of. And also so that those who are making their living this way, because it can be hard for trans people to find traditional employment, we want to be supporting their way of employment as best we possibly can.
And so when you talk about the employment, what exactly are you doing? Are you connecting with management? Are you connecting with different businesses? How are you helping in that aspect?
Yeah. So some of it has to do with finding out any place I've ever worked before I've agreed to work there. I've asked them about their trans policies. And if they've given me problems, I've put myself financially in a privileged enough place through saving that most of the time I can either then exit that situation, or if I'm going to be able to be in a position to empower situations and policies and procedures, staying in that position, specifically knowing that I'm going to be able to make those changes to make that space safe enough for a trans employee, or marketing and advertising the job openings into where the trans community is, which might be at a community center. It might be a trans website online in your community. It might be a Facebook group or an Instagram account or any of those sort of social media forums, finding those. That way we recognize we're seeing, we can make our changes, and we can also invite people in instead of keeping people out.
Right. And social media nowadays is so important because people are fearless behind a computer. And the more that we can find, like you said, those accounts that they are being proud of who they are, and they want to be able to show success, or, oh, yay, I'm finally able to get this job, or I'm finally able to do this and do that because I'm being accepted. Those are those positive things that we have to share, because that is going to be so important in helping those people thrive. And if you care about people in general, then you should care about everybody and not just someone who is not like you. Even if you don't understand what they're going through, or understand or feel it's right or wrong according to what you believe, it's not your place to understand. Everybody has something they're dealing with. And so as long as you accept, and be kind, I feel it's like so easy to just be inclusive.
Absolutely. And I think the nature of social media is that we get these bite-sized pieces of information from all sorts of different places. And so just following maybe a surgeon who does transgender surgery, or somebody like Jazz Jennings, who is a transgender icon and content creator, Laverne Cox is an actress, Elliot Page is an actor, all these people, follow one or two, look for the trans hashtag if you're not sure who to follow, and find some content, whether it's somebody around your age, someone who lives not far from you, or somebody that just seems interesting. Follow along with their journey, and you'll learn, not because you're being lectured at, or not because you've done something you have to be told what you've done wrong. You're going to get bits of their daily life and bits of what they put out for you, just alongside everything else that you get in your newsfeed.
Right. And I think it helps normalize the community and saying, oh, well, they're dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. They're dealing with this, they're doing this. I think that because so many people either don't know somebody who might be trans, or someone in the LGBT community, it's foreign for so many people. And so that's why I think there's so much like against it because there's just not an understanding, or you may not know somebody. So you just feel like, oh, they might be weird or different or this or that. But most of the time, many times, people don't even know that someone they're talking to might be trans, because they've transitioned and done all the, any type of surgery, or just changed their, voice, or their, the way they're dressing. Some people pass and some people don't, but the understanding is that people are just people trying to just get through life.
Yeah, you talked about normalizing, and it makes me think of Sue Sanders, who is an LGBT icon in England and a dear friend. And she has invented a word that I am obsessed with called usualized. And her take on it is, when we say that we're normalizing, that means that something is currently abnormal, which we inherently know is typically a negative thing. When you talk about usualizing something, it means that something is just unusual. And that doesn't make it a bad thing. Matter of fact, most artwork, right? Most artwork is unusual, and that's what makes us love that piece as much as we do.
Right.
For those of you who haven't gotten a tour of Dr. Stacy's house, there is a secret there, and the secret is her parents were beautiful, wonderful artists, and her home is filled with the picture behind her head, the painting behind her head, and all sorts of
Art
things.
everywhere.
Right. And it's not because it looks like what we see on the shelves at Bed Bath and Beyond or TJ Maxx or Home Goods that's usual and just like everything else. We love it because it's unusual, because it's unique, because it evokes a feeling or an emotion. And so when we usualize something and we make it allowed to be unusual sometimes and becoming more usualized,
I love
we
that.
take some of that negative stigma out, right? I met her doing a panel during COVID, and they brought us together virtually. And I literally said, when she said it, I love that word. I love you. Let's be friends. And bless her for not thinking I was too much of a giant weirdo. And she said, okay, now we're friends. And
No,
we've
you're
been dear
just
friends
being
ever since.
usualized.
I was usualizing my weirdness.
We're usualizing your weirdness.
Heaven help us all.
But you know what? It makes sense, because different is not necessarily not normal. I mean, what is normal? Who is normal? I'm not normal.
And who wants to be normal anymore?
Why be normal? Exactly.
The best musicians, the best artists, none of them would probably call themselves normal.
No, you want to be around. I love being around people who are unique and different and have quirks, and that just brings something different to the world. Why be with normal?
There's a speaker who's actually Florida based too, called Sally Hogshead. And she has an entire career on different. And she says different is better than better. And I literally will whisper that to myself when I make what feel like mistakes to me, because I feel like we all have those moments where we think people are watching and judging. And the reality of it is, if you asked me to name the last 3 mistakes that I saw Dr. Stacy make, I couldn't name them. First, because of course not. Hypothetically, if she did, not only did I probably not notice a mistake that she made at some point, I didn't remember it. It didn't stick in my head. So I have no clue what ever even happened. And then
Most people are judging themselves more so than judging others.
Then I can tell myself, if I don't remember Dr. Stacy's mistakes, in theory, she probably doesn't remember mine. And the same could be said for any of us. And sometimes when we kind of let ourselves off the hook that way, we can take a breath and actually take in more information, more knowledge, put out more kindness, more empathy.
Absolutely. And speaking of being able to show kindness and empathy, what are some ways that we can show up better for queer and trans folks in dating lives, relationships, or even in the bedroom? And it's not just, sexual relationships. It's even just friendships, any type of intimacy that you could have. What are some ways that you recommend that people can show up for them?
I think the top one is really recognizing that people have their own unique experiences, and anybody who's an LGBT identified person is going to probably have some coming out experience stories.
Right.
They may or may not choose to share them with you. If they're trans, they may or may not want to share with you what surgical things they may or may not have had done. They might not want to share with you the name they were assigned at birth.
Right. It may not be your business.
Right. Or pictures from when they were younger, or any of those things that sometimes people ask because they're curious about a human. They don't always realize that that curiosity is really none of your business, and it can really hurt the friendship
It
if
can
that
be
person
invasive.
doesn't feel safe. Right.
Yeah.
It is invasive. And
So,
whether it's the sex or friendship, you only get certain information and you only get to do certain things when you have consent.
right. So if that's the case and someone wants to ask questions, how do you recommend someone will go up to somebody? Let's say someone knows that they are trans and they're like, well, I don't know how to ask these questions. How can they show up and be respectful? We just ask, is it okay if we ask questions? What do you recommend something?
It depends on the person. If the person is at an event where conversation is happening intentionally about the trans experience, they've probably put themselves on the stage specifically being open to having questions asked. And
Questions,
they'll let you know if you ask something that they don't want to answer, they'll politely decline to answer it.
right?
And your job is to be as respectful as possible when you're asking. And to
Absolutely.
and to be respectful if they decline to answer. They don't owe you an answer. You're not entitled to the information. If it's a person who's not on a stage and not doing speaking work about being trans, if it has nothing to do with your interaction with them, it's not your business. And it doesn't matter how much you're curious. Who somebody is isn't anybody else's business, the same way you wouldn't go to a grocery store and bump into someone and ask them what bra size they wear.
I
That's
do that all the
weird and
time.
nobody's business.
Is that weird?
You know
Should I?
what, Dr. Stacy? I'm not surprised by that. Your listeners are probably not surprised by that.
Yeah, you and I walking in the grocery store is a dangerous thing.
Yeah. You and I walking into anywhere together could be a dangerous thing.
Exactly. That's so funny. But
The Purple Passion Project goes to prison is not what I'm trying for here.
no, we will stay away. Dr. Chris and I will stay far away.
Yes.
So knowing that you're an advocate and you do speaking engagements and educate others, have you noticed a big impact on you and your relationships and how you view love and inclusion with your own personal situations?
So I met my partner because he has a trans son. I was pushed to be on a dating app by some friends, including Dr. Stacy, who had the audacity to have very, very happy romantic lives and who had the audacity to want that for me. And so I made them a deal that for 1 month I would go on a dating app and I would weed out using all the filters, all the things that were a yes or a no for me and see where it got me. And I came across a face that I thought was attractive. And I looked at the profile and the first thing it said was proud dad to a transgender teen.
Boom.
And I swiped on him. And a couple of hours later, we matched and we started talking. And when we started talking, I didn't have my first name on my account because too many people were finding me because of the books and things I've written. I have too much of an online presence and they were getting kind of creepy. So I just put my first initial. So when we matched and we talked, he knew nothing about me. He knew nothing about what I did for a living.
That's the best.
Yeah. And we talked for a little while. And he asked me finally, he said, "You're learning all about me and you've asked about my son," because I wanted to know how accepting he was of his child. And, how do I learn about you? I don't even know your name. And I said, "Go watch I Am Jazz season 7, episode 1 for the first 15 minutes, and then come talk to me if you want to." And I waited 15 minutes and I figured he was either going to talk to me or unmatch with me. And I got very lucky that he decided to talk to me. And that's been 2+ years and we still haven't stopped talking. And I've been very, very lucky that
You
it
haven't
means that
stopped
I now have a
talking?
trans kid. No, we don't. He's a journalist guy and I'm a speaker. And between the two of us, there's not a whole lot of silence.
Hey,
Even the dog barks. It's all of it.
it's all good. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And
Yeah.
so when you're dealing with the trans community, how do you feel that labels may help or hurt when it comes to talking about identity, attraction, intimacy, things like that? Because everyone wants to throw us into boxes. And so sometimes it can hurt and sometimes it can help to help people understand who they are, who they're attracted to. What have you found?
I found that we have to be careful that we are talking about features or personality types or whatever else that we're attracted to without turning people into a fetish, without wanting to cross somebody off your bingo card of sexual experiences
Right.
and treating
Right.
people like objects. And when we're careful about that, we open ourselves up so people feel safer to talk about who they are and what they're interested in. And so it's a safety component. I think it's also a consent component. We know that there is an ongoing, probably forever debate over when a trans person who does pass or
Yeah.
is running stealth comes out when they're dating. There are some people who believe it should be on your dating profile. There are other people that feel like, but if I do that, I'll either get harmed in a hate crime or somebody will treat me like an object and only want to date me
Right.
because of my body.
Right.
And neither of those are acceptable either. So, there's plenty of people that believe the only time anybody needs to talk about what is or isn't in somebody's pants is if sex is going to definitely happen.
Right. And that's not just for trans people. I mean, it could be people for her who are LGBT. If I'm looking for a man and I'm pansexual and I'm looking for someone that will be open-minded to me being open to
Mhm.
other experiences, I don't want to have to start off with that right away because I want people to get to know me as a person. And then when you build that trust and you go into the intimacy portion, then I believe, just like you said, to be able to say, okay, I trust this person. I feel safe. This is an intimate part of me. I don't need to let you know if I don't know you that well, exactly who I want to sleep with. What's it
Right,
any business?
especially in small communities where
Right,
you may see on a dating profile somebody that you work with or your child's
right.
teacher or your dentist.
Yeah. They
How
have to
much of
be
ourselves we
careful.
put out there. And whose business is it what we have or don't have under our clothing
Right.
until or unless the person with us is going to be exposed to what we do or don't have under our clothing.
Right. And then by that time, people already know who you are and they
Mhm.
can make those decisions. So I'm loving this conversation. It's definitely something that needs to get out there more and people to be able to understand how to help and be an ally to others. But I want to just take a quick commercial break and then we'll be back in about a minute and a half. So we'll see you in a
Okay.
few.
Looking to reignite passion, deepen intimacy, or overcome challenges in your sex life? Meet Dr. Stacy Friedman, a clinical sexologist and certified sex coach with over 20 years of medical and coaching experience, dedicated to helping individuals and couples build more connected, confident, and satisfying intimate lives. From performance anxiety and desire mismatch to communication struggles and curiosity about pleasure and identity, Dr. Stacy creates a safe, judgment-free space for real transformation. Her unique blend of medical insight and compassionate coaching welcomes all, whether you're single, partnered, poly, queer, straight, exploring, or rediscovering yourself. Through one-to-one coaching, she helps clients explore their desires, break through barriers, and embrace a more empowered sexual self. And the best part? She offers a complimentary 15-minute consultation to ensure it's the right fit. Visit drstacyfriedman.com to schedule your free call today. Dr. Stacy Friedman, where her passion is to help you create yours.
And we're back. So we were talking with Dr. Chris about inclusion and especially in the transgender community. One of her focuses is just helping with workplace inclusion and being an ally and been amazing. And so as being somebody who helps bridge that workplace mindset on inclusion, what do you feel that people should stop assuming about trans people, about their bodies, about pleasure and desire versus someone who may not be?
I mean, I could go as far as to say we should stop assuming anything. At this point in our lives, we ought to recognize, we're all unique. We all have different experiences, and we're also all human. And so I think there are some people in the trans community that may want to talk openly about their experience coming out or their experience in the dating world or their experience meeting their partner or their partners. Some may not want to talk about that at all in the workplace and may feel that that's either not professional or just isn't something that they feel they can trust their colleagues with at this point. So not assuming and not trying to pry into people's spaces if they don't choose to volunteer and share, I think is always critically good in general.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't be assumed that just because it's something that might be different than what you're dealing with or what your life is, that it's an open book, and not everybody feels that way. So it's important for, once again, like you said, to get consent, to ask the questions, and to respect that not everybody is going to be open. So one of the things that we had brought about in the questions I wanted to ask you is challenging the idea that sexual orientation is all about intercourse. And what do you think about that? Is it all about just intercourse and who you want to sleep with, who you want to?
Oh no. I mean, I think most of us started to have, some version of a crush on somebody when we were pretty young yet. I think I was about 5 years old when I had my crush on Peter Jennings on the news. I just thought he was so intelligent. I don't know. He was my favorite. And, sitting and watching him on TV every night, I didn't understand anything about the world around me yet, but I knew that he seemed like a nice man. And I knew that he seemed very well educated and well spoken. And I certainly
That's
was not of the
attractive.
age, right? But I wasn't of the age where I was thinking about, you know,
Intercourse.
no, no, or about boys in any sort of sexual way. I just enjoyed that particular human. And, next for me, I think was probably like Joey Lawrence when Blossom was on. And
Oh my God, Joey
oh,
Lawrence.
uh-huh. Did I have his cassette tape? Yes. My parents were divorced. I had 2 copies, so I was never without one. Oh, it's a whole thing. And I probably still could sing along to half those lyrics if someone played it right now, because I wore those tapes out. But I
Yeah.
think those moments are part of who our sexuality is, in who we're attracted to. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're having sex with everyone we're attracted to. It doesn't necessarily mean we're having sex at all. And there are television shows specifically capturing the journeys of virgins who are over, say, 25 years old or over 30,
I
or
just
that
heard
movie.
about that the other night.
I think I'm the one that sent it to you. Because I have been asking. There's a show on TLC, which is the channel that I Am Jazz airs on. A show called Virgins that
Yeah,
follows
Deanna told
four.
it to me the other
I'm
night.
the one who told Deanna.
Oh, okay. Well, she told
That's why.
me, and I was
Yeah,
like, I want to watch this.
right. And it follows the story of 4 people who I think are all over the age of about 35, and what their personal stories and journeys and experiences are in being over 35 and being a virgin, including one person of the 4 who is married and divorced and still a virgin. And there are probably more people we know than we even realize. There are people we know that probably have never had sex with their current partner because the partner has, say, erectile dysfunction, or
Oh, there's
maybe
many
because
reasons.
maybe somebody's going through menopause, and so the sex isn't happening in their relationship for many, many months. I think so often we assume happy couples mean lots of sex, and sometimes happy couples mean no sex at all, but the intimacy is happening through the hand holding or the sharing of jokes or the snuggling or having an intellectual conversation that's intellectually stimulating to both of them. All these certain things that we're into
Right.
don't necessarily have to do with an actual physical act of intercourse.
Right. And what I tell people in my practice all the time is that you don't have to have intercourse
Right.
just to be having sex, because sex could be so many things. I know for years, I had 6 years of painful sex where I literally was not able to have intercourse. Okay. And here I am, a sexologist, not able to have sex. And that's one of the things that actually got me very interested in working as a sexologist, is because I had to figure out, I was so used to just living as a sexual being and being like, okay, I'm going to go have sex. I'm going to go have intercourse, 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 intercourse. How do I have sex without intercourse? And
Right.
so there's so much, whether it be pain, surgical, like you said, ED,
Mhm.
menopause. There's so much that you can do for your partner, for yourself, that just because you can't actually have intercourse doesn't necessarily mean you can't have sex. Can't that, and also, like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're attracted to someone, you want to have sex. I
Right.
have I have somebody on next week that talks about asexuality and neurodivergence and all this kind of stuff. And it's just a really interesting thing, is that everything is fluid. And if people can just understand that it's not a binary, it's not a one way and a one way, there's a whole line in between. And we need to be able to hold a safe space for everybody in that line. Whether it's a long-term relationship, someone just hooking up, or even just exploring yourself. I think it's so important that we make sure that we create those spaces for people.
Yeah, and that we recognize that not everybody has access the same way. I mean, women in America are often allowed to be kind of snuggly with each other. We hug on each other. Some people will kiss each other on the cheek or the top of the head, whatever, in friendship. Men in America aren't allowed to do that with each other without accusations being made about their sexuality.
Right.
And so in hetero relationships, what typically happens is that all of that man's experience and support of physicality, snuggling with, comfort with, all those things have to come only from his female partner. And that is a lot of expectation that he puts on her, a lot of expectation for her to carry, a lot of expectation that comes out in different ways when a couple has a problem, or when they break up, or when the partner dies. We know that women tend to survive okay when they become widows, because they have typically a friend support system. And men either die very quickly or they get remarried very quickly.
It's true, usually within the year after losing a spouse, if they don't remarry. They say they die of a broken heart, and because hopefully their partner is the one that allows them to bring out that feminine energy, that sensitive side, that emotion. So.
And getting hugged is just sometimes for some situations and some people, getting a hug feels as good or better than having sex.
Oh, I love hugs.
And that's life affirming right there. And there are plenty of people that are having really great intimate lives that don't involve sex in an intercourse type of way, in a penetrative way. I mean, 1 in 10 people with a uterus have endometriosis or adenomyosis or fibroids, and the number goes up and up and up.
Or painful sex, or
all of these things. There are men that are going through medical care and medical treatments as well. It doesn't mean that we can assume they're not having a very strong intimate bond with somebody.
Right.
They just need to be able to shift what that means. And for some people, it's figuring out when sex can't happen all of a sudden, whether for medical reasons or something else. How do we bring the intimacy into relationships? And I think that's why it's such a great thing that we're in a world where we not only get to have Dr. Stacy as somebody we can hire, but we get this time with her every Monday and getting free Dr. Stacy time, because nobody understands intimacy better than you do. And you're getting to teach everybody every week. And that's amazing.
No, I appreciate that. And just the fact that I've gone through my own intimate and sexual journey, especially with painful sex, and saying to myself, this is, right when I was having children. So my oldest is 24. So for 24 years ago, it wasn't very known out there. I had gone to, I probably talked to about 45 doctors on the phone, and actually went to 9 to try to get some help. And when I'm dealing with this at 25 years old, no one teaches you what sex is without intercourse. So I am thankful in a way that I had this experience of having the painful sex, because now that it's my specialty and people are a little bit more aware, the doctors are more aware of what's going on, that they can help others. I mean, they told me, oh yeah, grab a glass of wine and just relax. I'm like, seriously? I am a sex god. I don't have to just take a glass of wine and relax. I want sex all the time. This is like, I'm telling him, I'm like, if I can't have sex, there's something wrong with me. Don't just tell me I have to relax. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So and in our sex ed in this country depends on what state you're in, sometimes what county you're in.
Exactly.
It's not even required to be medically accurate in the majority of places. Right. And when sex gets talked about, it's typically taught to kids or youth
anatomy.
As being it's an anatomy lesson, and it's a lesson in wear a condom, and then they show you a bunch of pictures of a lot of sexually transmitted infections,
right?
And try to scare people.
Don't get pregnant, don't get a disease.
Yep. And we understand as a society that male people, or those with a penis, are supposed to enjoy sex. That's pretty well taught to us in the media. But there's a giant knowledge gap in that idea that those with a vulva are also supposed to enjoy sex. That this isn't supposed to be a just drink a glass of wine and let your partner have at it because otherwise he may leave you.
Right.
That's not a real conversation. But
Yeah.
there are plenty of people who have been told that by medical professionals.
Mhm.
There are plenty of people who get told, as I did with endometriosis before I had a diagnosis and even after, I was told the same thing. We
Yeah,
or we
I
can
couldn't
give
believe it.
you right, we can give you something to numb your genital area so that your partner can still have sex. And when I said to them, but then what's the difference between me and a sex toy or a blow up doll or something?
Or a donut.
Oh, yeah, or
Or an
anything.
apple pie.
Or a melon. I don't know. I mean, we could play this game for a long time. We've just invented a new game, folks. But thinking about what that means and what that says about our society and the way that we
Yeah.
value, or rather devalue, the experiences of people who identify as women when we're talking about intimacy and sex.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think that just even people understanding others in the LGBT community can also help them understand that everyone is deserving of pleasure and everyone is deserving of understanding of how their bodies work. And just because you might be of a different gender or a different sexual orientation does not take away your right to have pleasure and be happy in relationships and be included in relationships. So, what is some of your advice for allies who want to potentially date and wind up meeting somebody across a different gender or identity spectrum, but they're afraid to say the wrong thing? How do we, help them kind of connect to other people without being offensive?
I think some of it is just showing up and listening for a while. Use your social media channels and listen to the conversation that's happening. Pay attention to what's going on in the news. You can follow any of so many organizations, whether it's NBC Out, I think is on Instagram. The Trevor Project is also on all social media platforms.
Right.
Your local community or city or state's LGBT organization probably has social media. Follow it and pay attention to what's going on in the community of the people that you'd like to date. And that's not just for sexual and gender minorities. That's if you want to date outside your race. That's if you want to date outside your religion. That's if you want to date outside of your geographic location. Get to know
Right.
what's going on in their world so that you're learning about things and you show up as an educated person on the topic. And then you can have conversations with them about their experience within it, but you're not coming into it as if everything is the same, because if you're in a position of privilege, you need to recognize that you're in that position, that you don't have as many things working against you as somebody who may be trans identified or
Right.
LGBTQ plus.
Yeah. And speaking of all the education that we're lacking, I know that you have a few books that you have written to help educate. And every time I talk to you, there's a new freaking book out. I don't even know. I can't even keep up anymore. But, we're talking about traditional sex education and they don't touch on half of the stuff. And so now with so much of this education being taken out of schools, it's so important, like you said, because we don't know who's out there. And if we do meet somebody, we want to know the right way to just make people feel included. So what are some of the things that your books teach that maybe traditional sex education doesn't?
Yeah. So I will say, for those who are just new to this idea that sex ed doesn't have to be medically accurate, or if you are listening from somewhere outside the US, go ahead and use your YouTube or whatever channel you like to watch your videos on. Look up John Oliver and sex education. He did a great 20-minute piece of research material specifically on the way sex ed is taught in the States, or not well taught is probably the better way to word that. And I think a lot of it is getting educated, getting to know yourself, and recognizing what your intentions are. We talked about making sure that we don't treat people like squares to cross off on a bingo card. Being thoughtful about that, being thoughtful about what does your reality look like if you're dating someone who is of a different background than you, whether it's sexually, gender minority, racial minority, whatever it is, and figuring out, does this fit in your life? Are you
Right.
going to need to have some conversations with some people that you love who may say inappropriate things to you? And are you ready to have that kind of conversation? Are you ready to listen and learn and support and be vocal and protective? Because those are some of the challenges that you take on when you take on someone with a life different from your own.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, and you do have to be open to it, and just being willing to be an advocate and be willing to say, listen, take a chance, get to know this person, do this, do that, and be able to not fear the unknown, because so many
Hmm.
people that don't know or don't understand, you might get kickback, and you have to
Right.
be okay with just saying, listen, I choose to educate myself. Like I said before, we're not expecting you to have to completely understand or agree or be on the same page, but to listen and just be like, okay, I accept you for who you are. That's all we're asking for.
And
So,
there are, like every other demographic of people in the trans community, there's everyone from the biggest jerk to the biggest sweetheart and everyone in
of
between.
course, in every community,
Right.
absolutely.
And so if who you meet the first time you meet someone who's trans might be a jerk to you, that doesn't mean all trans people are jerks. Just that one person was, and probably you just caught them at a bad moment. So being really intentional about not thinking that all the trans people or all any people are a monolith is also really important.
Right. And that's just the same that goes with anybody who might be racist, saying everybody who's this is that, everybody who's this is that. I mean, it's you. The way that I look at the world is that I'm going to just judge somebody for who they are to me, and also the way they're treating others. And if you're a good person, it doesn't matter if you're in a community that people might think are different or not good, because it's not about that. It's about the people, the person by themselves, who they are, as a person, because you're going to find yucky people everywhere, unfortunately,
Absolutely.
you know. But I want to take one more commercial break, and then we'll get talking. I have some more questions about your book, so we'll come
Okay.
right back to you. See you in a minute.
Let's talk about toys. No, not the ones from your childhood. We're talking about the ones that make your bedroom way more fun. Whether you're flying solo or sharing the sheets with a partner or two, it's time to explore what a little buzz, tingle, or tease can do for your connection, your confidence, and your pleasure. Dr. Stacy isn't just a clinical sexologist and certified sex coach. She's also your personal guide to a whole world of adult play. On her website, you'll find thousands of carefully curated items to explore your wild side or deepen intimacy with your partner. From lubes and lotions to vibrators, bondage, lingerie, and more, everything is high quality, discreetly shipped, and hand-picked with your pleasure and comfort in mind. Because here's the truth. Pleasure is healthy, toys are normal, and adding a little spice to your love life can actually strengthen your relationship, improve communication, and boost your overall well-being. So go ahead, explore your fantasies, try something new, and turn up the heat. Click the shop link at drstacyfriedman.com and start your pleasure journey today. Dr. Stacy Friedman, where passion meets play.
So speaking of your books, how many books do you have right now?
4 plus my PhD dissertation.
That's it?
So that's it so far.
Come on, get to
Hey, you have been named in the acknowledgments of each of my 4. So
all right. Awesome. So speaking of your books, what is one of the books that you feel, if someone wants to get some support and understand the community a little bit better, which one would they start with? Would it start with book one, or is there?
Well, the books are written for different audiences. Each one is meant to bring and teach LGBT plus inclusion in a different space. So the first book is for K through 12, which is parents, educators, community leaders, daycare providers, babysitters, anybody who's in and around or works or lives with kids. The second book is for those in the business world. So if you have a business, you're in business, you work for a business, that one's for you. The third is for higher ed, so colleges and universities. And then the fourth is for medical professionals in any level or type of medical profession. So depending on where you best fit would be what book best fits what your needs are.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that you did one for medical, because there's a lot of people that are in medicine that don't understand, or, and believe it or not, I mean, in the medical field, and there's just so many people that don't know enough. When you have, for example, a GYN, and you
Mhm.
go to a GYN's office, and you would think that they would know a little bit, and then there's a man that has to sit in the waiting room who is someone who is trans, born female, trans man, and they don't know how to help that person feel safe or included, and they'll call that person back, and everyone will be looking, or you know what I mean? It's like, how can you treat these patients in a way that shows respect and keeps them from being outed? And you see that a lot in everywhere, and like you said, in the workplace and in the health field, it's all over. And so those books, I'm sure, have
Sure.
very helpful.
I hope so. I mean, and I think regardless of what gender someone is assigned at birth, recognizing that our medical staff don't always know,
Right.
the paperwork in any given process isn't always set up correctly. And that doesn't mean it shouldn't be. That just might mean the trans person is the first trans person that's been through this experience. But
Right.
even looking at things like being able to have your name as the name you want it to be in your business or your workplace email, and that's not just for trans people. That's anybody who goes by their middle name instead of their legal first name, or that goes by a nickname. It's really hard when you introduce yourself one way and they see a different email.
Well, what
I don't.
about,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Richard and Dick?
Right.
I had a friend who was Dr. Dick. He went by,
Hmm.
I know it sounds funny, but his name is Richard, but people knew him as Dick. And so if he had to do his name and everything, no one would have any idea. Dr. Richard be like, who's
Yep.
Dr. Richard?
Right.
But his
Right.
legal
And
name is Richard.
yep. And when we make processes and products and things go into space where it's safe for Richards to be known as Dicks, then it also happens to work out that it benefits trans people. And
Right.
when we make decisions to benefit trans people, they also benefit the other people who go by a different
Absolutely.
name too.
Absolutely. I
So
mean,
often the news media tries to make us think, well, why should we all have to do something special
they
for a
want,
small
right,
percentage of people?
right.
As a general thought, if you know that saying a certain word hurts somebody or makes them more likely to die by suicide, I would think most of us would say, I'm going to not say that word then.
Right.
It can be that simple. And
Simple. I
it
was
can
going to
be
say
as
just that
simple, right?
simple.
And having conversations about our identities, including our sexualities, including our intimacy, including what makes us feel good or feel bad. There are some people that are huggers, for example. I love to hug my friends, but I don't like being hugged by strangers. I think it's weird. And there are some people that only want to be hugged by their partner, and other people that never want to be hugged at all.
Right.
I also have a weighted blanket that I sleep under. So my blanket hugs me. My dog hugs me. And those boundaries get to be my boundaries, and they don't have to have anything at all to do with Dr. Stacy and her boundaries. And it doesn't make one of us right and one of us wrong. They're just different boundaries.
It's just something that I would respect from you. If I knew, I had one of my friends that hated to be hugged. And when every time she'd come over, even though it was in my like, oh, I just want to give her a hug,
Sure.
I'd just be like, hey, what's up?
Right.
That's her boundary. And if we would just respect people for what they need, how they want to be called, what they want to feel, what they want to be, how they want to be touched, why, like you said, why is it so difficult? Why is
Right.
it difficult?
Right. And it builds in immediate intimacy with someone else when you respect their boundaries.
Oh,
When
absolutely.
sorry and fix it if you got something wrong, or you put your arms out and then you realize you shouldn't and you put your arms down. That's building that intimacy in that relationship because they see that you're trying, they see that you care, and you're making the effort.
Right, right. So, talking about intimacy, what do you feel that people can do tonight, for example, that can maybe help with more inclusivity and maybe being more connected in their own personal lives, whether it's a friendship, whether it's their intimate lives?
I'm a big believer in letting people know something positive. I think we live in a world where it's really common, especially behind where the cameras are when we're on the internet,
Yeah.
saying the negative thing. I'm a big believer in look for the positive and then share when you have a positive thought. So I am guilty of randomly texting and saying to a friend of mine, hey, I thought of you. I saw this color blue. It reminded me of a shirt that you wore the last time I saw you. I hope you're having a great day.
No,
And
not
just letting them know at
purple.
all. Well, yes, for you, it's always purple, but and for someone else, we barely dare to wear purple except when we're around you because, we have to honor it.
But yeah.
And so knowing that somebody is thinking of us in a fond way, or if you're in a room and you're hearing about a job opportunity and a friend is looking and you mention their name and you just let them know later, hey, I don't know if anything will come of this, but I was at this event,
I
somebody
told
mentioned a
somebody
job
about
and I
you.
mentioned your name. Knowing that you're being positively spoken about behind your back is a lovely gift. And
Right.
I think, the way I look at it, if I'm going to be crass for a moment, most of us poop about once a day, or at least once every 2 to 3 days.
Usually.
Right. Most of us have our phones with us in the bathroom. If you've got free time right then, if you've got time that you're scrolling the internet anyway, send a text message to a friend. Hey, just thinking about you. Hope your day is good.
So it's inclusive to everybody. You want to
Right.
just include everybody, friends, lovers,
Right.
relationships, family. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the guys who are doing that and who may do that to their guy friends, it might take some getting used to because they're typically not used to hearing that sort of praise and support from other men because we don't always treat that with value in America.
Well,
It's okay.
It's funny that you say that because I was watching a TikTok the other day and they had this trend going on where a guy would call one of his best friends or a couple, he's got a group of some guy friends and he'll call to say goodnight. And they'll call and they'll be like, hey, bro, what's up? Hey, how you doing? Oh, I just called to say goodnight. Just thinking about you. Want to call and say goodnight. And they're like, huh? Like, yeah,
Right.
just call to say goodnight. They're like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Just want to say goodnight. You sure you're all right, bud? So just to do something nice or be kind to somebody, a lot of times men are not allowed to do that. Men are not allowed to just call and be like, hey, I was thinking about you, man,
Right. And if that feels too weird to do, send a text and send a text to, 5 people if you want
I
to.
love you, man.
Right. And it can be as silly as you want. It can be just like an emoji of 2 dudes hugging from some movie
You
that
never
you
know
like.
when
Whatever it is.
someone
Right.
needs.
Right. And there's no such thing as too much love. And there's no such thing as too much support. And there's no such thing as too much acknowledgement. And in the world that we're in, where everything is moving so fast and everything can sometimes feel like the world's on fire all around us in so many literal and figurative ways, that moment where somebody's phone lights up and they think, oh God, now what? And what they see is a kind message from you.
Someone's thinking of
It's
me.
amazing in a positive way, too. It's an amazing gift you give. It costs you almost no time and absolutely no money.
I posted something the other day on Facebook, and it says right here, they asked, why is it important to be kind? And I said, because we walk past hundreds of people every day, and none of them wear signs that say, I'm grieving, I'm exhausted, or I'm barely holding it together, but they are everywhere. Kindness might be the only softness that they receive today. So I love that you said that. I actually just got goosebumps because inclusivity doesn't just mean people who may be different or, something that you don't understand, but it's everybody around you. Everybody has something that they're unsure of, that they're dealing with. And just to be able to, like you said, pick up a phone, send a message, say hi to someone on the street, walk by, smile, it can mean so much for somebody that you don't even realize. So I know that we're getting close to the time, but I know that speaking of, I am Jazz, Jeanette Jennings, Jazz's mom, has a charity, and I know that you have something that you wanted to shout out because she also works very close with the LGBTQ community. And so I wanted you to have a few moments to talk about it.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about Trans Kids Purple Rainbow Foundation. Supports transgender youth. Right, another purple. 100% of my author profits for all 4 of my books go to the organization. Also, anytime that I'll ever have money to spare, and sometimes even when I don't, because I just believe so much in it. It's a great organization to donate to. It supports the different needs of transgender youth. Sometimes that means contributing to a large party for trans kids where they just get to be around other trans people and celebrate themselves. Sometimes it means money that goes towards other forms of support, whether it's mental or physical health care. At a time that we're in right now where politics is doing what it does, it is more important than ever to have these sorts of organizations. They are big proponents also of using the Trevor Project as a lifeline. So for those of
I
you
need
who
that
may be
now.
struggling, yeah, now that 988 has taken away its option specifically for LGBT people, Trevor Project has picked up on that. It is my hope that some of the wealthy people in the world will back that 988 and it'll come back. But until it does, if you are somebody who is struggling with safety at this moment, please know that you are wanted and you belong and you matter. Please call that lifeline. Please stay here because the world is better while you're in it.
And with that beautiful ending, Dr. Chris just lit us up with so much great information and some badass tools to make sure that we all stay inclusive and accept others for who they are. And so I wanted to just say thank you for being on here. And once again, always love chatting with you. I know we could talk for hours and hours and hours. But if you love this episode, make sure to grab some of her books. Her website is right on there on the screen. This is Chris.com and it's KRYSS. And repeat Jeanette's charity again.
The charity for I Am Jazz and for Jazz Jennings is Trans Kids Purple Rainbow Foundation.
Trans Kids Purple Rainbow Foundation. Just remember purple. And so I just wanted to say thanks again. Check out the charity that we just shouted out. And real intimacy is not about fitting in those boxes. It's all about being inclusive. It's about breaking them open together. And so I just wanted to say thanks again. So hope to see you soon. That's it for this episode of the Purple Passion Project, where we keep it real with just the right amount of spice. If today stirred something in you, let it. And if you loved what you heard, subscribe to see more. We're going to have some great guests coming up in the next few weeks. If you're ready to go deeper, make sure you follow on social media at Dr. Stacy Friedman for resources and behind the scenes magic. And thanks for joining us on the Purple Passion Project, where passion meets permission. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and stay unapologetically you. Thank you.
This has been the Purple Passion Project with host Dr. Stacy Friedman. Tune in each week as Dr. Stacy breaks down walls, busting myths, and gives you permission to want more with no shame, no filters, and definitely no small talk. Check in every Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on your favorite streaming platforms. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to visit drstacyfriedman.com to learn more.